Okay, so let's take a look at the actual process for updating the firmware in Bootloader. So we'll right-click, additional functions, update device firmware bootloader. So we'll start first with the firmware. We'll hit next. It will change. It'll select the most recent firmware for us. So we'll hit next, and then we just have to wait here as it goes through the process. It'll send the files, and then it will restart the SCADAPack at some point in the installation process. So we will lose communications with it temporarily. Updating the firmware does take a little bit more time than updating the bootloader, but it's not a long process. All right, so we're almost done updating the firmware. Looks like it's taken about 11 minutes or so. This is when we first connected with the SCADAPack, and current clock is about 12 minutes later. So finished downloading the information onto the SCADAPack. We'll hit next, and then now it's going to go ahead and suspend the SCADAPack while it starts to install the firmware. So we'll go ahead and let that play out. So this part will take about a minute and a half or so. So we'll let that go on. As you see here, it lets us know that the connection status has now been disturbed. That's expected as it's doing this update process. You will lose connectivity with your SCADAPack, but it'll only be temporary and it will reconnect when it's done. All right, again, this is all expected. We hit OK here, and if you notice here, it's saying it's connecting, disturbed. So we'll go ahead and hit next here. And now we'll hit finish. All right, so you do have to wait a little bit of time. It's initializing currently. So you do have to wait a little bit of time, and then we'll try again. All right, and we are back connected with the SCADAPack. You just have to give it a little bit of time to finish doing its update process. So we've updated the firmware. That process, sending the files down to the controller, took about 12 minutes, and then took about a minute and a half to actually unpack those files. And then after that's done and you hit next, it took about another minute or two for us to be able to communicate with the SCADAPack again. So all in all, that took about 20 minutes or so from updating the firmware to where you're back connected to it. So just keep that in mind. So now we're gonna go ahead and update the bootloader. So right click on controller settings, additional functions, go back to here to update device firmware bootloader. This time we'll select bootloader. We'll hit next. It automatically chooses the latest bootloader file for you. So we'll hit next. And then this one goes a bit faster than the updating the firmware. So we'll let that go. All right, so it finished sending the files over. So now we'll hit next to actually get it to install the files. So again, this is taking about 1.5 minutes. So we'll let that install the bootloader files into the SCADAPack. We'll hit OK here. Again, we get the disturb message, which we were expecting. All right, so now go ahead and hit next, finish, and we're already back connected. Hit refresh. And your SCADAPack is good to go. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Sage and have a great day.